My name is Trey Stefano, and I'll be showing you some tips just for getting ready for videography. This is our Canon 80D. This is what mostly we use. It's DSLR, and it shoots some pretty good stuff. There's a couple of things you need to know for shooting video, and the most important thing is having this knob down to video mode, because if not, you'll just be taking pictures. Secondly, we try to always film in manual focus, which is on this little slider over here. Make sure it's in manual focus. And over here, just another thing, you want to make sure this setting is also on manual. Control it with the little wheel here. And that allows you to change different settings when you're on the camera. With the settings on the camera, there's three things you really want to focus to, and that's your ISO, your aperture, and shutter speed. And for your ISO on the 80Ds, you really don't want to go anything higher than 800 ISO. And if it's really bright outside, you can do a lower ISO, letting more light in. But if it's in a darker area, you're going to need a much higher. And we try not to go any more than 800, but once you start getting into the thousands, the picture gets more pixelated and it just doesn't look as good. And for aperture, it's going to be this little diamond dial, and you hold it down and you can turn it. And the lower your aperture is, the more light you let in. Or the higher your aperture, the less light you let in. So when it's all the way to the lowest it can be, the lens opens up a lot, looking a lot bigger. And that just is another way to get shallow depth of field shots, letting more light in. And for your shutter speed, you usually want it around 100, depending if you're inside or outside. And when you're focusing the camera, it's the dial closest to the lens. You just turn it to once it's in focus. You're gonna insert your batteries on the bottom here. You just push up on this lever, pop the battery out, and you just put it back in like that. And you know it's in when it clicks. Just make sure everything clicks. For your SD card, it's gonna be over here, and you slide this out here and insert it here. That's about it for the 80D. We have a lot of different lenses, and the one typically that comes with the 80D, and the one if you want mostly a typical shot with a little bit of range to zoom in, is gonna be your 18 to 55 millimeter. Usually get a basic aperture with it, and it's just gonna give you a nice basic shot. And when you're applying the lenses on and off the camera, when you take this part off, there's going to be a little white square that's going to match up to the camera on the Canon. And you want to make sure not to leave these guys off when you put it back in the bag, because that will really damage the lens and you'll have the binding lens. So make sure you put your caps back on. If you're wanting more of a wide angle, you're going to go with something like the 10 to 18 millimeter. This has less aperture to work with, but it gets you a really nice wide angled shot. Same thing goes with the lenses, just match up the white square. And if you're wanting something super focused, you could grab something like the 55 to 250 millimeter, which will allow you to zoom way in, kind of just turn it like that. That's it for the lenses. Okay, this is our tripod we use for our cameras. And mostly use this if you want a stable shot. It's your always go-to, always bring a tripod. And the way you set it up is just spreading out the legs and letting all the legs fall down. Make sure they're extended all the way before you start clipping them. That way they're not unbalanced. Clamp them down like that. And when you place it down, you want to be between the two legs. That way it's the most balanced. It's not going to get off too weird. And yeah, you can also raise it by adjusting this handle. If you want a higher shot, you can just lock it in place by closing it. If you need a higher shot. So once you attach your quick release to your camera, you just screw it on, make sure it's all leveled in, and you want to slide it in right here. Once you hear the click, you're good to go. You can adjust the camera with this little handle, go up and down, left to right. And also on the tripod, to know that you have a balanced tripod, there's a little circle here, little bubble, and you can know that your tripod is balanced when the bubble is around the red circle.